and lots of other Q labs and all the stuff I love to play with. And I had to go back to basics and really just look at the practice and say, actually, Harriet, can you say this without those things? Literally, it was that. And yeah, I think we did. I think we touched on something. There is a film, I'm hoping that eventually I'll have a film that accompanies this live performance, so there'll be a film. And I think I will lean towards my own self-identity, my gender fluidity and other things about my life. I think I will lean more towards that. And my diversity as well. I'd like to lean more towards that. But this work was made in parts, and I think each part just triggers something of a bigger idea. I feel that. I don't know how the dance, but for me as a maker, I know if I had another 4 weeks, I can see where I would go. But 2 weeks gave me the opportunity to touch on new things. Most of what you see is new. There's only one part that probably existed already. It's just the battle, isn't it? Yeah. That existed already. Everything else is new. Yeah, everything else is completely new. But I think that this work will be I hope it will be almost like a triple bill that can be taken to different types of spaces and also enter into an official theatre. So it has the capacity to blend itself in different environments, which I feel for audience development now is really important to reach people. We have to be able to blend into different environments. And that's what that taught me here. How can I make it happen with limited tech because of the plug sockets and stuff like that, with the Wi-Fi? How can I make it happen? So for me, that is the benefit of being in this space, really challenging my practice as a maker. Yeah, so to you, if you have any questions.
Is there anything, Harriet, that you want kind of specific, because we could sit here and chat about this for a long time, I suspect. I'm sure you don't have the whole. But is there anything particular that you were interested in getting our feedback or questioning on? Is there any particular area of the work? I just wanted it to be useful for you. So.
I think it would be good to have feedback just in terms of your first impressions. So key things that came to the mind as you were watching the work. It's like watching a movie, What are the things that float to the surface? And any questions? Oh, what's that about? Is this, these are the things I'm asking, really. Does that make sense? Yeah. And also, for this space, we've got no makeup. Well, we've got a little bit on you, but we haven't gone the whole hog, because it's just too much. You'll be like, fire! And, so, just throw something at me. Yeah.
Just for the beauty, how was it with made kind of encroaching on your personal spaces?
Personally, one of the things that stands out to me about this, which perhaps answers this question as well, is all these different viewpoints. So the fact that you can see over here the projection, I love the silhouetting of the wall, that was really, and then to have you here, and then at one point I think you were down here, and so there's and you're over there, it's easy, I can't even see you, but to feel part of, to feel inside the work as opposed to within, engulfed between us and you. Actually, it's very intense. Watching it's very intense with such close proximity in such a small space.
Yeah.
Sound-wise, but also with performance, because it's very, it's super high energy. You're absolutely here with us. Your eyes, your use of your eyes. So having you here. There's one moment where I think perhaps after your duet, where I actually just wanted to give you a hug because you kind of been powered down into the seat, and I was just a bit like, oh my god!
You went reading it.
You look like destroyed. intimacy actually, and the power and the fact that we are not just watching like this, but we're like this, or like check. I found that quite interesting.
Yeah, and I agree with you, because I wanted, that was intentional. I wanted to take away this kind of two-dimensional perspective and allow for the viewer to make decisions about what they want to watch, which I think theatre should be about. So you can choose at any moment what you want to focus on, and that's delightful because you have a sense of ownership. You're not just embodied with a flat image and that's it.
Yeah.
You can look at one person there, and you silhouette, a dancing movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's more engaging. I think.
And it's also your viewpoint, right? Because you're not just looking out here to us, you're over here or behind the mirror, or like, so it's also us building more empathy with your perspectives, because you're seeing things from multiple angles.
Yeah, but that was intentional. I'm glad you pulled that up, because that was, remember I was saying, I could see the audience could decide they want to see, where they want to, because originally we were going to try and do it in the round, but as we progressed, why did I switch? Oh yes, and I wanted this sense of architecture of the mirror. The kind of cutting space with the mirror, sort of architecture, and then the body's filtering around the mirror. That was the idea. But I'm just very glad to have you here to see something, and hopefully for the future you'll see the full evening. Yes, that would be lovely. And then, I'll have time to really dive in the dances. Alright.
Does anyone else have any questions or things they want to?
Any questions?
Yeah, I was also quite into the use of the mirror. I also felt quite excited every time also the mirror reflected light onto the projection. I thought that was quite exciting. I don't know why, but that was something that I was particularly into. It's also quite nice to not be able to see who's behind the mirror, but be able to see them through the projection and have these different perspectives. I found that exciting. I wonder what was the decision making around when performers do sort of silent screening or silent speaking, and the times that they decide to speak, and it felt like there might be intentional and there might be something behind that, and I got quite curious in relation to that.
I mean, speaking actually came from the original Triplicity, didn't we, when we did it at Dances. But we kept it in French because it was originally in French from a year and a half ago. But I didn't intentionally put silent speaking in. It was more about the characters, because each of the performers had a character that is embedded in the process. And as a result of that, things began to flow out. So what you have with Flavia is the investigation into her idea and interpretation of this lunatic state. That's why her eyes, she's always looking up, looking at the moon, wanting to disappear, which she does, hiding in corners. Yes, so maybe that might, it wasn't intentionally speaking, it just comes from the character. And then you have Hyper, which is part of his character naturally. He likes to keep space across the floor. He did, and climbing ADHD, it's real. We're not inventing. He climbs up, he's fidgeting around, that's all real. And then you've got nervousness, yes, which is everything that's twitchy, kind of a little bit dark, and as we progressed, the personalities began to blend. So maybe what we're seeing is the blending as well. We started out really clear, didn't we? And it's something like, right, you were picking up a part of Hyper. Hyper was picking part of you up, and it was just flowing. So there was a kind of silent speaking, but I like a lot of what you're seeing came from Triplicity, which is the first part of this work, and the silent screaming comes from that. And I like it because, I don't like it, I mean, like is not the right word, but I think it's relevant because of the questions we're posing about self-identity and mental health and personality disorders and ADHD, all this stuff we were looking at. Yes, it's a lot deeper than just silent screaming. It's more about an expression of what's inside and not being able to be heard. That's sort of the idea. Cool. What did you guys think as musicians?
I was, as a non-dancer, I was kind of hung up on some of the technical stuff. It felt like I was in the best position because there's this sort of diagonal,
There is.
you know, from here, and I just thought I couldn't imagine seeing it any other way. Because from here, the angles of the reflections on the mirror were perfect. I could see the silhouettes and everything. And so the first thing I was going to ask you was, did you imagine it round or as an audience all facing this way? Because I loved seeing, you know, it's almost like an isometric kind of view from here that I really liked.
Yeah. No, I think, as I was saying, I think it depends on the spaces. I want to be able to create a work that can bleed into any space. So I guess it would depend. I mean, with this space, we had the choices. This was the widest part of the room. I'm done. Unless I just make them just move this way. But I did do a little keystone because I wanted, yesterday it was bleeding onto Azizi, and I thought, oh no, that's not right, because, you know, it doesn't make sense. So I did change it this morning, so it was more in a keystone position. Yes, I don't know if it was, I don't know, maybe in the future I might keep that. It depends, but we're working with more complex technology, and we're using QLab and all that sort of stuff, so it just depends on Igor, actually, the actual guy I work with. That's a good question. It's a really good where do I really want the audience? Because actually, that might be the best position as opposed to here. Do you know what I mean? That's a good question. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't get to that. I think it knows that. You know about the live feed, right? Obviously we didn't have a live feed because we didn't have the additional computers and stuff like that. But originally, it would have been live feed. We would have had a live feed, which would have been part of the duet, but also I wanted to experiment with it with the audience, and I didn't have that time, so I'll do that.
What is being fed live in live feed? Is it there a camera inside the work that projects?
Yeah. No, it's mobile phones. We use mobile phones as a way of allowing for the audience, I hope, to interact with work. And that's the next investigation, which I didn't have time. I decided to leave it because I just didn't have time and resources. But it's actually with the audience will have the capacity to use their phone within the performance in the future. This is the idea. Yes, because everyone, I'm sure right now, everyone has a mobile. Right?
Not with me, but yes.
Like
there's so much happening. I don't know if I want to then also have to do something else.
You saw 15 minutes. It's not, the last one was 30 minutes.
For sure. Yeah.
And this would be an hour and 45 minimum. So, of course, it's not going to be 15 minutes. I'd like to have it in 2 parts. But you're right to mention that because actually it's a key aspect of it, and we did that, a bit of it at Darcy's, at their venue. Live feed, with like the mobile phone, you can use different types of applications to feed from real state, like through OBS, broadcasting, live state directly onto the screen, so that you can get into the dance while it's happening in real time. And I think that's nice because you're getting closer to the dance.
Because I'm trying to understand. So the audience goes into a theatre, and this is happening.
No, not necessarily in a theatre. It could be any space.
Okay, but you also identify dance houses, larger scale dance houses, or a conventional.
I don't know. We spoke about this. I'm going to be very clear because I know the changing landscape in Europe. I think this work will be devised to fit into any type of space. That's the idea. I need to, as a choreographer, that's going to be my challenge. But okay, maybe it is a theatre. Maybe it's something like the Stanley Aubrey, just a standard box theatre. If that was the case, then I would actually consider another way of doing it with Igor. Do you understand? I would devise a way of having the audience participate if it's in a theatre.
And what is this participation mode? So they open their phone And what do they see on their phone and what do we see on the screen?
What will happen, what we did at Dances, we had a software, it can be accessed from anyone can access it. You probably use it in Zoom on your phone. What happens is the audience can actually, and I haven't, we only did it once for Esther, didn't we, when one of them on her phone. But the audience can actually step into the work. This is the test. We haven't done it. We haven't made it.
Okay. And what do you mean? I'm trying to like imagine it happen in my head.
I know. You need an R&D to do that. As a maker, I know imagination can only take you so far. You have to do it. You have to go through the program, and it's a process. So with my team, I think I'll be able to investigate, maybe have 3 ways of utilising that live feed in different types of spaces. That would be the investigation. Because you can't just have an idea and then plonk it in. You have to look at ways according to context. Do you know what I mean? Like that would be the choreographic research, I think. But I think you said a good question because I know what you mean. You know, I immediately think dance house, box, audience, there, dancers here. How do they get their phones and get up? No, I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking right from the point that they're probably in contact with the phone, and I'm going to work backwards, and then figure out how they get in. I would go backwards. As a maker, I wouldn't go sit down, phone. No, I'd go the other way. Yeah, does that make sense? Little more anyway. Oh yeah.
She didn't use it on her
Our phone. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but it's still the same. We still have to go through the process of investigating how the person would be a part of it. Well, this is it. This is the research. Yeah. I mean, with Esther at Dances, we had her in the work. That was one part of the research. So she was actually, she sang.
She walked around to like,
yeah, she was walking around recording. So that was one. But I think for me, as a maker, I need to take time. I'm just a bit like that. I would have to test and test again. And sort of, yeah, like a little bit. But it's possible, and I think it will happen. Actually, no, it will happen, and I think that's the exciting part of it. You know, how do we do that?
It is interesting. I've been mulling over all what has been said. I've been interested to see how you do that. But because from I came into the room, I was totally immersed in what was happening. Totally. And the fact that I could see myself in the mirror at times was really quite disturbing for me. But it meant that I was absolutely present, that I was in there. The fact that the performers were here and in my face, and it was just, it's really visceral that you can really feel part of it. It feels really authentic, really, I don't know what words for me, but that was for me a very special part of being here, feeling totally part of what was going on, feeling totally engaged with the emotions.
Did you see it?
That were happening.
Yeah.
Just beautiful.
Yeah.
I really wish I could have heard clearly what you were saying.
I know.
But
I know.
yeah, not because I understand French. It would have been nice to understand and then maybe make the connection with your yes, as in. But yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask the question as performers, how has this, even if you did the one in Dances before, how has this process elevated, made you think differently? Yeah.
For me, this process is the process that I enjoy most because I felt it more our process instead of being in the process of others dancers. So I felt it more authentic for me because we made all together part of it, and it was a kind of research first, and for me, yeah, I felt it better in the way to explore and also to perform it.
Yeah, I feel similar with Flavia. So like, it's like two different ways of like processing work. So like when we were in Ipswich and Dances, that was a work that had already been created, and there were aspects that were changed, but like majority of it was this is the movement and this is what we've already done, and we only had a week there, so it was like hit the ground running. Like after the third day, I was like, and then by Friday I was okay to perform. But like it was like quite an intense thing. And like still fully enjoyed it, but when we come here, it's been like 2 weeks, so we can settle into what it means to us individually. So for instance, like in the first week we were making, and that was all fine. And, you know, it was okay, but like for me, I wasn't fully invested in it because I hadn't found both myself and the way that I interact with the other two. And then within this last week, I've been like, with everybody developing their characters and diving deeper into it, I've been able to be like, oh, this is here. So it's only been within this week that scream has turned into me being put down.
Yeah,
before it was like, it was just normal. He's just like grabbing and then just did the scream, scream as if he was screaming into the mirror. And then I was like, oh no, because beforehand in the battle for me, it feels like I'm here for like a bit of fun. He's very annoyed at the fact that I keep pushing him, and then by the end he builds up this confidence to just tell me to fuck off, and then moves back and he's still like, stay away until Flavia looks back at him and he's like, move on, look here. So it's just been, authentic. It's just been nice to like delve into that as a person.
I'm happy to go after that. No, for me the process was really interesting, honestly. The fact that the work this week was during those 2 weeks was not only as a dancer, because as a dancer like you can dance kind of everything when you're a dancer, but more as interpret, and it's like two things different for me. And I really love the fact that in the studio, in this small community, we managed to build like interpretation of our characters, and kind of at the end like could feel like from me and from also them, that we weren't interpreting anymore, we were living it, like we were becoming the characters, and it was really cool. And I enjoyed a bit as well Jacob on the fact of in Ipswich we tried, as well it was only 1 week.
Yeah, it was very short.
It was very short
and
for us.
intense.
It was very short for us to understand the work and what the other dancers worked on, and try to interpret them interpreting something else. So like, it was a bit weird as feelings, but yeah, I really feel those 2 weeks. I don't have the end of this phrase.
It's not afraid. No, it was different. I think, I mein, InDance was for technical investigation, and it was for them to get a sense of the movement that I've done before. And this period was exactly what it should have been. A period where I get to know you within the framework of the ideas that we built. And I like working like that. I like throwing a dancer in, which would be lost movement, pointless sometimes, and then just removing that and then going to the person, the human, and then begin to build that kind of story. I like that.
As well in Ipswich, it was the characters was about something else.
Yeah, it was.
Now we have nervous
Yeah. I mean, because you took on, you know, Amelia's character. I mean, Amelia took 4 weeks to build that character.
Yeah,
So
and
it was
it was another story that was as well for me new, like about
Yes.
something that I know but not really. So I was trying to find myself as well in this story.
Narrative,
I think the word that kept coming up is, excuse me, authentic, and being able to be yourself, and that absolutely came across in the fact that your physicality embodied your characters, embodied the narrative, that was really, really clear to see, that nothing was superimposed on anything. I really felt that you all were completely immersed in everything at all times, and that for me was absolute perfection.
It's so nice.
It's so nice to hear, because that was the word you used
the
all the way through the authenticity. It's not
Honestly,
real. I said, if it's not real, I don't want to see it.
I absolutely
Just don't show me.
I absolutely agree.
No.
I don't get to see your personality. And that's the thing. It felt like they had reached a state of ultimate vulnerability, that you were able to open yourselves up and really expose those sides of yourself, those sides that help to embody the character and allow us the space to join you. But even when you were up in your face, or I could see myself in the mirror, there was an uncomfortableness that I really, really enjoyed and look forward to more of. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everyone.